All right, let's talk about proportional reasoning. So I'm going to sum up a lot of things into this one video. So yeah, let's begin. First, let's talk about proportions. So to start with, we're going to talk about ratios. So a ratio compares quantities by division. All right, so a real simple example to think about is the following. So a group contains 60 women and 30 men. The ratio of women to men is 60 divided by 30. Of course, we can reduce that. So we can express this ratio as a fraction in reduced terms. So 60 over 30, of course, reduces. 60 over 30 reduces to 2 over 1. And so oftentimes when you hear proportions or ratios, people will use the following notation. So this ratio can also be expressed as 2 to 1, or you may see or hear 2 to 1. Same thing. All right. A proportion is a statement that says two ratios are equal. So if the ratios are A over B and C over D, then the proportion is A over B equals C over D. And so we can clear this up by multiplying the common denominator to both sides. It's pretty obvious what we're about to do. We're going to cross multiply. Technically what I'm doing is multiplying BD, the common denominator, to both sides. So this is technically what we're doing. B times D, B times D. So in this case, the B cancels here, and that's just A times D. And then here, the D cancels, and that's just C times B, or BC. So of course, we could just cross multiply that instead. I'll show you what I mean over here. A over B equals C over D. Cross multiplying means I'm multiply these two guys together, and I will also multiply these two guys together. And so AD equals BC. Okay, same idea, same concept. Technically, this is what we're doing, but this is what we're probably more comfortable doing. So this has got a name. I think I can put that right there. This is called the cross products principle for proportions. Cross multiplication. So if A over B is equal to C over D, then AD equals BC, provided that something is true, provided that B and D are not equal, provided B is not equal to 0 and D is not equal to 0. Okay. All right, so that's stuff you probably already know, but that's where we need to start. And so I think at this point we could probably look at some examples here. I got one I found that I really liked. So here's the one we're going to use. So here's my example. I'll just write it out. The volume of blood in a person's body is proportional to body weight. So a person who weighs 160 pounds has approximately 5 quarts of blood. And the question is, estimate the number of quarts of blood in a person who weighs 200 pounds. Okay, so we need to set up some proportion to do that. And I'm going to show you the way I do it. You may have a slightly different approach for how you do it. But so let's see what we got. So, a person who weighs 160 pounds has 5 quarts of blood. So, that's my first ratio, 160 pounds over 5 quarts equals, okay, that's going to be equal to another fraction. For this next part, they only give us, of the ratio for the next part, they only give us one thing. They tell us 200 pounds. So some books will not include the units. I like to keep the units because that tells me which, where this goes, this 200 pounds, whether it goes on top or on bottom. So pounds is here, so 200 pounds goes here. The question was estimate the number of quarts. Okay, so my quarts should be on the bottom. That's my x. And what I should technically say is let x equal the number of quarts of blood in a person who weighs 200 pounds. Okay. So we should include that for this class. At this point, this is going to be easy to do cross multiplication. So let's see. I'm going to multiply this x and this 160 pounds. I'm going to multiply those two together. I'm going to keep my units, I believe. And the reason why is that tells me what I should end up with. And then you'll see the ones that I don't want should cancel out. Again, some textbooks, most textbooks probably don't do this particular step. This might be more of a science thing. And then over here we multiply those together. I get 5 quarts times, I could even use parentheses, 200 pounds. And so this is just a algebra question. I'm now going to divide by everything but the x. So divide by 160 pounds. Divide this by 160 pounds. All right. So on this side, on the left side, I only have an x left. These canceled, 160 canceled, the pounds canceled. Over here, my pounds cancel, and I'm only left with quarts. So I do have this fraction. I guess I could write the fraction out. I have 5 left. There's my quarts. I have 200. Let me clean that up. Do it. Let me do it this way. I got 5 quarts, and I've got that 200 floating around, and then I have 160 left on the bottom. So at the end of this, I should end up with just quarts. Okay, so let's type that in the calculator. So 5 times 200 divided by 160. I got 6.25 quarts. All right. So, yep, that's about all there is to it for what we're going to do today. There's a worksheet I'm going to have available for you on Moodle. It looks like this. And so it would be a good idea to work through this worksheet. I'm going to go ahead and do one of these for you. see. Carol spends 17 hours in a 2-week period practicing her culinary skills. How many hours does she practice in 5 weeks? All right, so I'm going to just put down what I know. 17 hours for 2 weeks. Then the question is, how many hours, so how many hours is our X? Does she practice in 5 weeks? And again, the weeks match up down here. Again, I should probably say what X is, so let X represent the number of hours she practices in 5 weeks. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. Cross multiply. That's easy. Let's see. 17 hours times 5 weeks equals X times 2 weeks. All right, I'm going to divide by the 2 weeks. 2 weeks. On this side, the 2 weeks cancel. I just have X on the right. And then on the left side, the weeks cancel. Oops, not the 5, just the weeks. The weeks cancel, and I have the following. I have 17 hours times 5 over 2. So I'm going to end up with hours. Okay, it's also a fraction, but that's okay. If it's not an exact fraction, like if it's 0.33333 repeating, I'll tell you to round if I want you to round, or if you need to round, that is. So 17 times 5 is 85 over 2. Whoops. 85 over 2 hours equals X, or 42.5 hours equals X. So either of these answers is fine. Most students are probably going to use that. We don't really say 85 over 2 hours when we're talking about time. We would say 42.5, or more likely 42 hours and 30 minutes. Something like that. But any of these are fine. Exact values, no rounding unless stated otherwise. All right, and that just about does it for this video. So again, look over this worksheet. I have another one for you as well. But these are good practice problems.